Welcome back to our channel, guys. We are going to be reacting to another video because we saw a lot of people watching our previous one.
We're gonna be watching a video on the 3 most popular scary stories people found on Reddit.
Yep.
And the person who made this video is, drum roll please, Corpse Husband.
And so this is like my first time watching one of his videos.
Yeah, so if you know Corpse, he's very known for his voice. So
So I've heard.
That's something else that we're gonna react to. So
yeah. So let's get into the video right now.
Corpse, if you're watching this, hi.
Okay. Let's go.
Hey everyone, just a friendly reminder that my channel is primarily ran on stories submitted from my viewers to my email. And there's been an extreme lack of stories that I can use recently, and it has contributed to my upload schedule.
His voice, it either scares me or I would be best friends with him, or maybe a little bit of both.
I think it relaxes me. Like if I knew him, I just want to hear him speak all day. I find that deep tone so relaxing.
He does have a good like storytelling kind of voice, especially for this type of genre, so it's perfect.
Yeah.
I grew up in Ohio in the 70s, and me and my childhood friend Joe were outside all the time we could manage it. Joe lived on a farm that bordered a pretty big forest, and my parents would drop me off in the morning and we'd stay in the woods all weekend. When we got to be in high school, we got this notion to play Stand By Me. This was based on the movie of the same name that had just come out. The idea was that we'd walk the railroad tracks out in the country, but instead of looking for a dead body, we'd find cool bridges to fish from and camp a little ways off the tracks.
I was about to say,
dead
body.
We knew this was dangerous and we'd likely be trespassing, but we were kids. We had a lot of fun. It was idyllic. In fact, it was so fun we did it multiple times. Never had a problem. After high school, me and Joe went our own ways. We both left home, but always stayed in touch and always tried to coordinate visits so we'd see each other occasionally.
That's nice.
Well, one summer in the mid-90s, it worked out that we were both in town for about a week. We'd do stuff with family in the day, and at night we'd either catch drinks at the bar or sit outside Joe's house around a fire and talk about the good old days.
Older, right?
One night, me and Joe got to talking about our Stand By Me trips. Well, nostalgia and beer are a hell of a mix. And soon we decided to take a day, walk the trails, camp one night, and walk home. The day came and we started out early morning. We had my wife drop us off in our old spot where we used to start, right outside of our hometown. Off we set. The day went fine. It was fun and a little sad, but in a good way. We found a bridge, sat on the edge, smoked a joint, and moved on. We had no fishing gear, but we brought some canned food and other stuff. Before night started to set in, we picked a spot to camp. It was
like
thick,
a good
forested
day.
area with
Right, it
trees
sounds
on
fun.
every side of the train tracks, so you felt like you were in a tunnel. We had brought small hammocks to sleep on, but before we set them up, we decided to do a little scouting of the perimeter.
Why?
Now, this is what we used to do in the
You
old
gotta
days,
check
too.
the area.
We'd walk the area around a little bit just to make sure some dude's house wasn't just over a hill and we weren't actually camping in their yard.
It's so true.
We walked maybe 100 feet or so into the woods and up a small incline. We figured if we didn't see anything from on top of this short hill that we'd be fine. But when we got to the top, we saw an old building down at the bottom, about 100 yards into the woods. It was barely visible. We pondered over what to do. We both assumed it was a sugar shack or something because there didn't appear to be a clear road into it. From where we were, there didn't look to be anyone in it either. All was quiet. No movement could be seen. No lights. We decided to walk a little closer just to make sure. We came down the hill very slowly, and as we neared the building, we saw it wasn't a sugar shack at all. It was an old church. It looked like it had been abandoned for years.
That sounds like
It
a
was
scary
a squat,
movie.
sagging building whose wooden planks were almost black from years of moss and rot.
I have no idea what was
A
going
cross
on in
still stood
there.
on top of the place, also weathered black. None of the windows had glass and there were no doors, just open doorways. We got close enough to see inside. There were rows of pews and a built-up section in front for a preacher to stand. We didn't go all the way in. I mean, we didn't want to. Beyond all that, there was no sign of anyone else.
Something would have happened to me because I would have kept looking around and searching. I wouldn't like have stopped or whatever. I would want to keep searching.
No, I would just kind of look from a distance. I'm like, nobody's there? Okay, let's keep walking.
Night set in, and as we lay in our hammocks and shot the shit, we began to hear something in the direction of the church. Our conversation about it went a little like this. Do you hear that? The hell is that? Sounds like people singing. And it did sound just like singing. We both slid right out of our hammocks and
That's
hunkered
scary.
down, straining
Yeah,
to
no.
hear more. We listened for a minute or two when the singing continued, but it wasn't getting louder. Finally, we decided to creep back up the hill and see if we could spy where the sound was coming from.
What kind of
We
singing?
could still move very
Like
quietly in
church
the
singing?
woods from the old days. I mean, it was second nature to us.
I don't
The
know.
moon was barely out, but it provided enough light so you wouldn't walk right into a tree. But it was near pitch black.
Then he hears it, and then he listens closely, and then he hears wow.
We didn't use flashlights.
Just someone
as we
recording
crept slowly
themselves
up the
doing
hill.
the
Make
dance.
it drop.
We didn't talk. When we got to the top, we saw light in the distance. It was coming from the church, and the singing was coming from inside. Joe and I put our heads close together and had a hushed conversation that boiled down to, can you believe this shit? The light looked to be candlelight from the way it flickered. And though we tried, we couldn't make out what was being sung. It sounded like church music, but in another language.
Why am I guessing
We
already?
sat and watched
This
for a
was
while,
you?
trying to see who
I
was
wrote
at
the
top.
letter.
We only saw occasional shadows. Singing continued for a bit, and then it just stopped. After that, a very loud male voice began to chant.
Oh, no,
I was
no,
already
no, no,
freaked
no.
out, but this voice thoroughly scared the hell out of me. It sounded like some Old Testament preacher you see in movies.
Yeah.
But again, it was like he was speaking in a different language because we couldn't understand a single word. Eventually, it got to where the single male voice would say something, and then a bunch of voices would answer
Did
in
they
song.
see anyone? That's the
This
question.
lasted for a while, and then they all broke into this long, sustained wail that just kept getting louder. It got so loud and so disturbing that I covered my ears. Then it stopped. Joe put a hand on my shoulder and hissed, "They're coming out." We were far enough away that we couldn't make them out really well, but what we could see was a line of figures walk out the open doorway,
So there
all
were
holding
people.
hands in single file. We could see some of them had flashlights. They began to sing again, and the light from the flashlights began to move toward us and the hill. We booked it back down to our
You go into
campsite,
the
grabbed our
church?
shit, and ran to the tracks. Once there, we ran down the tracks in the direction we had came from. After a few minutes, we stopped and looked back. We saw lights coming down the hill. They were moving erratically, like whoever was holding them was shaking them. We continued to run in spurts and walk as fast as we could. We eventually stopped seeing the lights and came to a road. By our map, we knew a small town was about 15 minutes down it, and we walked there, got to a 24-hour gas station, and called my wife to come get us. My wife and other friends all just thought it was some kids messing around, but I heard those voices, and they sure as hell didn't sound like kids to me. I'm not sure who those people were, but it was definitely the creepiest thing that happened to me out in the woods.
And they're there at an abandoned church.
Yeah, that's scary because it could actually be some, like, I don't know, some group of, like, maybe a cult or
Yeah,
something.
I was thinking cult. Like, I don't want to necessarily, like, assume that.
Like, jump to that, but it
But
definitely
still,
sounds like it's a group.
A
that-
group of people who are, like, part of the
Yeah,
same
because
thing.
they're going to the abandoned church, so they're trying to, like, I don't know, do something.
But you would think that if they were just, just there at the church, that they would be welcoming or be like, instead of being spooky like that, be like, hey, come, or I don't know, like, they're
It's
there
an
with the,
abandoned church.
yeah, and they're there with, like, the lights following them. That's creepy as heck.
I don't like that. No, no, no.
No, that's scary. And that could be something that's, like, a true story. Number 3 is next. The last story.
A few years ago, I was renting a house in Northern California.
I'm
The
scared.
neighborhood was just outside the suburbs. It seemed like the perfect balance of having space and also having nice neighbors close enough to not feel isolated. The area had no streetlights, so it was very dark at night, especially
Not
Street
good.
lights?
Not good.
It didn't bother me though. It made my little house feel even more quaint on dark nights. I got home from work one day in midwinter. It was a cloudy night, so pulling up to my house, I saw only what my headlights and front porch light illuminated. When I got out of my car, I caught a whiff of cigarette smoke. That was odd, as I had never smelled that before around that house. I didn't see anyone nearby, so I just ignored it and went inside. I had just got off a shift with a few hours overtime, so I felt pretty tired. Even though it wasn't even 7 yet, I decided to take a shower and just call it a night. I woke up sometime later, sure that I had heard a noise inside my house.
Oh no.
I wasn't worried right away because my friend would sometimes stop by to use my shower after work on his way to his night classes. I
How
would give him a spare
convenient.
key so he could stop by even if I wasn't home. But he would always text me to let me know beforehand though.
Right.
And I hadn't heard my phone go off. I reached over to my bedside table and picked up my cell phone to see if my friend had sent me a text. The bright light from my phone's screen and number pad blinded.
Someone's living in the house with him.
Living in the house with him? That's
I
what you're
don't-
predicting?
Yeah, that's what I'm predicting. Like they're already in the house. That's why he was smelling. It was them. Probably smoked
Cigarettes.
outside.
But he said he never
When-
smelled it before, so wouldn't they have smoked before if they were living in the house?
No, I think like it just happened.
Oh, it just
like they
happened?
went into the house and they were there when he got home and went to sleep.
Oh, no. I'm scared.
These were the days before phones had a light sensor that would dim the screen in the dark, and this particular phone was so bright I could use it as a flashlight. Through squinted eyes, I could make out that it was 9-something, but I couldn't tell if I had an unread text or not. I set my phone aside and called out my friend's name. There were a couple of seconds of silence before I heard loud footfalls as someone started running through the bottom floor of my house. I leapt out of bed and ran
Oh
to
my
the
God.
closet. They were already up the stairs by the time I had to open the door and stepped inside. The house had 3 rooms upstairs, 2 bedrooms on either side of the hallway, the one I was in and a spare, and a bathroom at the end. The
I'm
bedroom
scared.
doors were both locked,
I'm
but the bathroom
scared.
door was cracked open. I heard whoever was in my house thunder down the hallway past my door and into the bathroom. Thank God he did. That gave me just enough time to open the attic access in the ceiling of my closet and hoist myself up. I had just started to lift myself up when the person ran back out of the bathroom.
Stop.
My feet were barely inside of the attic
Oh
when
my
my
God.
bedroom door burst open. I heard footsteps run into my room and stop. When they didn't see me in that room, they ran back to the hallway and into the other room, which just had boxes stacked in a corner. I guess they decided that if someone were hiding, it would be in the bedroom because they charged back into my room and turned on the light. A moment later, the closet door was ripped open. I was crouched in my attic just a foot or so away from the access so I could try to stop them if they started to climb up. From my vantage point, all I could see was from about their knee down.
Be
They were
careful.
wearing dirty blue jeans with frayed cuffs and worn work boots. After a few seconds of looking in the closet, they stepped away and I heard a loud crash come from my room, followed by a scream
my-
of frustration and anger.
Too much is
That scream
happening.
was the most unnerving part of the incident for me. It reminded me far too much of my stepfather, who would scream in a similar way when he lost his temper. He would
Oh, God.
eventually be put in a mental hospital for several mental disorders that resulted in erratic and violent tendencies. The man in my house ran back down the stairs. I heard crashes and clatters as things were thrown around and furniture was knocked over. I stayed crouched in the attic. I had left my cell phone when I ran for the closet,
Damn
and
it.
I wasn't certain I could climb down without him hearing. After some time, the noises stopped. I started counting slowly. When I reached 1,000, I decided it was safe enough to climb down and call the police.
Ah,
The first thing I
wouldn't have been
noticed
able
when I
to do that.
exited the closet was the intruder had flipped my bed over, I assume in an attempt to find me. That was the noise I had heard after he stepped away from the closet. I couldn't find my cell phone, so I went to the landline by the bed and called the police. I waited in my room until I heard them call out from downstairs. The first floor was a mess, but I had expected that.
They probably left.
Chairs had been knocked over, the sofa had been flipped. All the books, pictures, and knickknacks I had on my
was it,
shelves
though?
were strewn across the floor. The cupboards in the kitchen had been opened, and all the boxed and canned foods had been thrown to the ground. As far as I could tell, though, the only thing missing was a single knife out of the wooden block in my kitchen.
Oh, be
The
careful.
police checked the house from top to bottom. They found that the side door had been forced open by something like a crowbar. They also found a few cigarette butts along my fence line,
There
along
you
with
go.
some
Smell.
foil and an empty pen tube, which the police said people often use to smoke meth. So they think he had been watching my house for a while. I realized that he must have been out there smoking a cigarette when I got home. They collected up the evidence and told me I should stay with family or friends that night and get that door fixed as soon as possible. I opted to just not sleep. I moved a shelf over to block the broken door and spent the next couple hours cleaning things up. I would often go to the window with a flashlight and shine it along the fence line where the police found the cigarette butts and foil, but I didn't see anything. The next day, I called to have the door fixed and motion lights installed at the back and sides of my house. I ran a phone cable up into the attic and added a landline. I never wanted to be stuck up there without a phone again. I lived there another 3 years without incident.
3 years?
One more precaution I took was practicing getting out of my bed, going to my closet, and climbing into the attic as quickly and quietly as possible.
I would have moved out.
I even kept at it when I moved. Except now I go to a crawl space at the back of the closet instead of the attic. I try not to think about what would have happened if I had been a bit slower getting into the attic.
I know.
Or if he hadn't gone into the bathroom at the end of the hall first.
Good thing he went up to the attic as fast as he could.
But that's so scary that you're like in bed and hearing somebody walk around in your house, and then you said they started like running, like walking really quickly. Like, that's so scary.
But he made it real fast up in the attic in time. It was just he forgot his phone, which is why it took a long time.
Yeah.
If he had his phone, he might have been able to call the police ahead of time.
That's why I gotta work out, be fit, because I would have been struggling.
No,
with
but
my
I don't
arm.
know if he had like kind of a ladder or something to help him boost up.
Yeah, true.
And you see, the common thing about all three of these scary stories is that they have to do with people. They have nothing to do with ghosts, and that just goes to show that you have to be careful.
People are so scary.
You have to be careful out there. Because of these people, you have to constantly be alert about your surroundings, whether you're outside or in your own home. Stuff like this is just like definitely 3 scary stories right there. Oh man, that was crazy. And I love the way Corpse told it.
Yeah, no, his voice is perfect for this.
Yeah, you're a genius, Corpse.
Alright. But yeah, I would watch more of his videos.
Yeah, like he said that he doesn't post often. He doesn't, but when he does, it's good, as you can see.
If any of his fans watch this video, like, I don't know, like, we get it. He's good. Yeah.
Comment below if you're a Corpse fan. We also came out with another video, which was our last video, where we did some parody of like a top scary video.
Yeah, like we created our own little mini scary video. So if you guys like it, make sure you give it a thumbs up.
If you like this video and you want to see more, you can subscribe to our channel.
Oh yeah, make sure to watch that playlist that has all of our videos in it, and you can binge our channel
in the description box below.
Our nice, humble subscribers, 55 subscribers. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you can know when each video comes out. And make sure to follow our social media accounts. Obviously with Instagram is Broke Anxious Queens. Kayla's TikTok is at Kayla Eilish _ and my TikTok is at Angie OK Here We Go.
Thank you for watching.
And in honor of Corpse, we want to say
bye.